Hey, brothers and sisters, welcome back to the channel. As I continue to give you insight on how my mother's death was handled, and I was trying to consider the best way to present this. And I guess instead of trying to tell you, give you the information chronological order, like how it went from beginning to end is kind of long. So I think I would have to break down what each individual did to contribute to my mother's demise. I'm gonna start with the ringleader here. This, unfortunately, is my sister. She doesn't speak to the rest of us. There's six of us, and she doesn't speak to the rest of us. She's a medical doctor, but we don't mess with her at all. None of us. And I'm gonna break it down for you in a moment. You know, when my dad first died, my mother was living in her house, comfortably, everything. She started showing signs of, forgetfulness and stuff, but she was doing okay. So at that time, I had suggested that my other sister, I have two sisters, this one and another one, and I had suggested that she stay, with my sister. And since this one here she had falsified a power of attorney. At that time, we had not known yet. We thought that my mother had signed it over to her. We figured out, okay, since she's doing that, why doesn't she just give my sister a little bit of money to take care of my mother, just as a token of appreciation, and use the rest of the money to buy groceries and take care of the house. My other little sister would be the best person to watch out for her, you know, take care of her well-being and everything. Which is true because she would be able to stay in the house 24/7. In the middle of the night, if my mother needs something, she could get up in the middle of the night and help her. And being that she's her second daughter, that's not this one, the other one. She would be there all the time. So at first, she agreed to this arrangement, but with time, she started telling us things that lies, which were lies. She started saying that my sister, this one here, started saying my other sister refused to give my mother medicine would and her blood sugar was high, blah blah blah, all of this. So I didn't believe this story. However, other people kind of did, at the time, because she's a very good liar and a very good manipulator. So as I continue with this here, this is another picture of her in a radio station, WHUR. She's a very good con artist, and she knows how to manipulate and lie to people and make them believe all her lies. So she falsified a power of attorney in my mother's name, and made herself the sole beneficiary. So she had full control of my mother's money, and was, when my sister was in the house, she basically stopped giving money to my sister, where my other sister would not give her money for food, and basically drowned, froze her out of the house. She hired another nurse. I'm gonna call the nurse Ashley because I want to protect her identity. So when she hired Ashley, Ashley is a certified nurse, and this was done through the government. So the government was giving her money to take care of, or giving her some sort of stipend to take care, or helping her take care of my mother through this nurse. Now, like I said, she has kids that are, have autistic. So she wanted this nurse Ashley to take care of her kids as well. You know, she even moved my mother from her house, my mother's house, where my mother was living in, and put my mother in her house. You know, now Ashley used to take my mother out on activities. Take her to the mall, take her dancing, and doing it, and keep my mother active. And it helped her, kept her brain going. But she also wanted Ashley to take care of her kids, and Ashley refused. She said, "No, that's not what I'm here for. I'm not hired for that." So she fired Ashley and brought on a nurse that was not, and that's not even a qualified nurse. Prior to getting rid of Ashley, my mother had a lot, was going through therapy, and was, there was, she had nurses and therapists that would come and help her walk, do things for her. My sister got rid of all of them. and then said that the reason she had to do it was because my mother was being belligerent and all of this, which was a lie. I never believed it, but I couldn't really argue it. So like I said, she stopped giving my so basically she got rid of that nurse, because the nurse would not do what she wanted the nurse to do. So she hired another nurse who was not even qualified, and the nurse didn't even have papers to be in this country. I'm gonna call that nurse. Uh, I'll I'll call her Tammy for the sake of argument. The second nurse, Tammy. Now this nurse, I guess Tammy. That's the name I'm gonna choose for. Tammy is easy to remember. To also predict her identity. Tammy would only, had only availabilities in the daytime from maybe 9 to 5, because she also had a little child that she had to go home and take care of. By this time, she and my other sister had fallen out over this incident, and this one here banned my other sister from visiting my mother, so she had no access to my mother. So Tammy would stay with my mother from 9 to 5 and would leave in the evening. She was married, but she divorced. She got rid of her husband and started dating some other dude. And she would leave my mother overnight under the care of her two sons. Remember I told you that one of them was not doing all too well. So, and of course, these are two adult males watching over a woman who at this point had been mentally compromised and was bedridden. Tammy would come the next day and see my mother covered in bodily fluids, her feces, urine, and everything, and would clean my mother up every day. This one here was nowhere to be found. So she would come the next day, clean up my mother, and because of all of this, my mother developed horrible bed sores. Now, mind you, she's a medical doctor. She's a medical doctor. She showed no compassion for my mother, no empathy, whatever. While all this was going on, our neighbors at my mother's house called us and asked us that why are we putting my mother's house on sale? I had no idea that she had gone secretly behind our backs and listed my mother's house. So when we confronted her, she claimed that the house was her house alone. So we had to take her to court to block the sale of this house. While we was in court, she claimed that she's selling the house because she needs money to take care of my mother, which was a lie, because my mother put a lot of money aside for her care, And plus my dad worked and both of them saved money and paid off their house. So she claimed that she needed money to take care of my mother, which was a lie. So the courts in DC told her that she cannot sell that house at all, under any circumstances. So she sat and devised another scheme, to try to sell the house. But at that time, she could not sell the house. So at this point, it became very obvious that what she was trying to do. We had a client that stayed. My dad had a tenant that stayed in the house for was living in the basement, had been renting the basement for more than 40 years, and she kicked him out of the house. She forced him out of the house, and so the guy moved out of the house, and now he lives somewhere. We're still in communication, the former tenant, but she forced him out of the house, and the house was in severe disrepair. So every day we would ask her, when are you going to fix this house? The house is falling apart. I remember an incident. Every time we tried to have a meeting with her to try to talk about these issues, she couldn't do it because of conflicting issues or whatever. But one day, we had a surprise birthday party for one of my nephews inside of here, not her child, somebody else, and told her about it. Oh, she was more than willing to come. So she came with all her kids. And at that time, I told I have another little brother. I told him, you see, You see how she's able to come to this party, but every time we have a meeting with her, she can't do it, you know. So she came there, all of that. So the next day I said, when are we gonna have a meeting with my mom about to discuss? Oh, I can't do it. I'm gonna be busy. She would never have refuse to have meetings with us and try to clear things up so that I didn't want any money. I just wanted to know how my mother's money was being spent. That's all I wanted to know. But she wouldn't do that. Instead, what she decided to do was lie, keep us in obscurity of what's going on. When we finally took her to court, she lied and said that she was trying to have meetings with us and we would refuse, which was outrageously false, you know. Now, because I had taken her to court, me and my other sister took her to court over this incident. She got mad and decided to ban us from coming to her house to see our mother. The reason we had to do this was at the time she had our nephews, she had her children living in my mother's house, tearing up my mother's house. And it was so bad that one time I had to go over there and physically kick them out of the house. So she got mad at us over that, you know. But she lies and said that she was trying to have meetings with us, and every time we tried to have a meeting, she said she didn't have the time to it, and she's busy and all of this stuff, which was a lie. So at this point, she would lie on us and tell people that we were not helping my mother. It was even the time I was even able to get money, medicine for my mother at a discount. She blocked that. Every time we want to help our mother, she will block it. So every time we want to help our mother, she will block it and lie about it. You know, she never. I remember once before this whole ban thing was put in place, I went to go visit my mother in the hospital. I mean, at her place, at her house. And my mother was having difficulty breathing. So I got concerned and I called the ambulance. And it turns out that my mother was having a clot, a blood clot. So when I came home, I called her and told her about it. And she got mad at me for doing that. I'm like, what would you be upset that my mother, she said, oh no, because I should have, this, whatever she was saying, it didn't even sound legitimate to me. And I'm like, why would you be upset that I called the ambulance for my mom? You know? Now, I remember there was a time she was very notorious for calling my mother, calling us and telling us our mother was about to die when it was not true. Now, it was an incident with my mother. My mother, because of all of these bed sores and all of this stuff, one of her legs had to be amputated because of her carelessness. Now, she never told us about the amputation or about the surgery until maybe 2 hours before it was supposed to happen. Prior to that, she knew what it was going to happen. She never told us. After the surgery, we had to decide what we're going to do with our mother, how we're going to care for her. So we decided that we want to get the power of attorney from her, and then we'll take care of our mother. The meeting was supposed to take. We had two meetings. The first one was in the hospital. In the meeting in the hospital, that meeting was supposed to only be with the siblings only, only the children of my mother, not grandchildren, everything. She brought her son. Her son came and disrupted the meeting by arguing with my other brother, calling us MFs in this thing. It got so bad that the security had to throw all of us out. So she uses her son to disrupt meetings every time we try to make decisions about our mother. We even had a Zoom call at the second time, and we said the same laws. She brought her son again, and again the son disrupted the meeting. So we was never able to have a good meeting because every time we tried to, she used her sons and her children to disrupt everything we was trying to do. So after this was all said and done, my mother finally passed away, and even if I'm gonna get into that, that's a whole different part. I'm gonna get that later. But whatever money that was left, she kept it and refused to disclose to us what was going on with my mother's finances. The lawyer, Timothy Leahy, he's another crook. I'll get into his shit later. But for now, he gave her back the power of attorney and said that now that everything is done, I'm going to honor the original will. Yeah, I'm going to tell you why that's important in a different at a different time. But she would use my mother. I'm gonna tell you what she did. She used my mother's the money that my mother left for her care. She opened her son a store. Her son has a business now in DC. Where did she get money from? I don't know. She also used some of the money to renovate her house. She used some of the money to pay for her one of my mother's friend's funeral, which she was not supposed to. The judge even told her she wasn't supposed to do that. She since the funeral, since my mother's funeral, she's not connected with any of us. You know, she doesn't call us, doesn't connect with us, nobody. She often used her kids as guard dogs. Every time we wanted to come to see my mother and we got into an argument with her, she would send her kids, and the kids will try to fight us and all kinds of stuff, you know, because of her. One time I got arrested because her son was getting rude with me and I slapped him for that. And she called the police on me and I got arrested because of her. But the charges was dropped because the judge saw that her son was the one being rude. You know, he was trying to fight me, so that's why I had to slap him up good. She just she just did a lot, you know. So I'm gonna break down what happened in the DC court right now. Now, like I said earlier, we went to court with her the first time to try to block the sale of the house. Now, while she was in court, we told the judge that she claimed that she had to sell the house because she was the only one taking care of her mother. We in court, we told her that we're willing to take care of our mother. I have a house. My mother could come and stay here, and we could alternate care. Now, before I suggested this, the judge asked her how much does it cost to care for my mother. She told the judge $10,000 a month. So the judge said, "Okay, well, fine. Allow me to my mother could bounce between her and myself every 2 weeks, you know. So 2 weeks she'll come and stay here, and 2 weeks she'll come and stay by my sister." So the judge ordered her to give me $5,000 a week, $5,000 to help with my mother's care, you know. She went back and told the judge that actually it cost through $4,000 to care for my mother. She did that. Now, why the judge didn't arrest her or ask her to show paperwork is beyond me. But the judge went along with it because at that time we had been arguing all day, and I guess he was tired of the case. So the judge said, "Okay, well, fine. Give him $2,000 a week, and he'll care for his mother every 2 weeks." And I agreed to it, even though I know she was lying. Now, when my 2 weeks came around to take care of my mother, she told me that the nurse that was helping take care of my mother would not be available. She went behind and told the nurse that if she tries to take care of my mother at my house, she'll fire her. The nurse told me that. So she blocked her. She made it impossible for me to get care for my mother while she was in this house. You know, we tried to get another nurse, but we tried to get the Ashley back, but Ashley at this time was pissed off with her and did not want to help. You know, and I don't blame Ashley for that, but she made it impossible to care for my mother. So, and also at that same time, we went to go seek medical advice to see if it's okay. The doctor said it's not a good idea to have my mother moving back and forward because of her mental condition. She had taken my mother out of her house, you know, and accelerated her problems, you know, her dementia, because my mother had dementia. She has said by removing her out of her familiar environment and putting her in her house, that caused the dementia to progress even faster, you know. So this is what I'm saying. So I'm gonna leave it right here for now. But the next person I'm gonna talk about is the lawyer, Timothy Leahy.